Hello, Bobby. We're going to get started on MAT 120. MAT 120 is also known as healthcare um, calculations and accounting. Why accounting? Well, that's because a medical assistant is likely to have to do at least a little bit of bookkeeping work and understand basic accounting principles. So we'll touch on that later in the course. But first off, we'll talk initially about um, healthcare calculations, and that's what we'll be spending some time on. Um, First off, it's been a while since we've seen each other. Couple of years, maybe three by now. So I'd like you to do the introduce yourself discussion, as well as we have two discussions. Generally speaking, each week we'll have two discussions. This week, our discussions will be concerning drug calculation errors and units of measurement. I will be posting. You will be, excuse me, on both of those each week. This week, since it's been kind of screwy between your work schedule and the weather, um, what I'm not going to worry about you getting everything in immediately. However, I will be doing my two posts during the week. I'd like you to make an effort to get these caught up as quickly as you can. Your assignment in week one is actually to look at, it's actually kind of a quiz. And if we look at the quiz, I'm going to preview it here. There is some discussion, and there are some sites here that take you to some videos and some PDFs, which you probably need to spend some time going through. Dosage calculations are critical. The wrong dose can be very harmful to the patient. Either doesn't get them the drug they need, or it gets them too much of it and um, uh, actually just really messes things up, can kill them even. We don't want to do that. So what you need to learn to do this, to be able to check, to understand how doses are done, and to be able to be sure that when a dose is put together, that it's correct. That's better practice. So you can do a lot of things. You can get a cheat sheet here. That's great. There are some questions here, and some instructions. So follow these. This is a remember, this is a 5 credit hour class, or a 5 credit class. So you're going to be doing a lot of work. And that's one of the reasons that I really want to see you on campus. And if we can get you here, that's great. But there are a lot of conversions. I'm going to have some discussions of that as well in the discussions. I'll lead you through that. And I don't know how comfortable you are with math. I do know that you can do math no matter what you think. Um, and because we all do, and we do it all the time. So I'm not concerned about that. But if you have any anxiety, I want you to to bring it to my attention, and let's find out. Um, so some things here you might want to um, um, you might want to sign up for. I would do that. So let's see. We'll just get out of this and get out of that. So there are others. There's a lot of stuff here that you can get. There are a number of things for you to go through. So what I want you to go through is read these things, and we'll discuss them more. These are not easy to really be discussing when we're not together. But let's call up a couple of them here and take a look at them. We're going to study this thing here. Okay, so we have the College of LPNs in Canada. There is a lot of material here about dosage calculations, best practices, and a lot of hints. Remember, we don't have trailing zeros that are not necessary, but we do have a leading zero anytime there is an amount that's less than 1, like 0.5. We put a 0 and a decimal point there, but we always put the 0 and decimal point. If you see something that is without a 0 in front of it, it's not correctly written. And that is really because so many times the decimal point is unreadable. And so what we want to have this is make sure that you see that 0 out in front, you know there's supposed to be a decimal point there. Okay. So we have, so that's a safety issue. So if all they send is 0.5 and the decimal point somehow or another does not translate, then you could be 10 times overdosing the patient. Trailing zeros are not used either. Again, this is so that there's no confusion. Okay. So there is in physics and in chemistry, we know the metric abbreviation for a milligram is mg, and the official metric abbreviation for a microgram, which is 1/1000th of a milligram, is usually this Greek letter mu. Unfortunately, in medical terminology, this can be misconstrued as a U. And what is a UG besides UG? But what is that? And it's nothing. So we use MCG as our abbreviation. So let's go down here. So these are some best practices. When we're giving volumes in liters, milliliters or liters, again in chemistry and physics we use a small ml. In medicine, the small l could be confused with a 1 or a slash or any of several other things. So we always use a capital L. So a liter is always capital L, and a milliliter is always lowercase m, uppercase L. So again, we do not use, even though we speak of cc's, which are the same thing as milliliters, we don't use those because, again, they can be mistaken if they're poorly written. And we all know that medical people have really lousy handwriting. I can, sometime in this class, I'm probably part of an in-class exercise. We'll do some prescription interpretations for you, just for fun, because that can be a real pain in the neck. Okay, so let's go back now to get rid of that. See, we have math for nurses. Again, let's not worry about math for nurses. It's the same thing for MAs. So we want to look at all of these documents here for you. Let's take a look at the we've already looked at this one. It's up here. Math for nurses. Let's take a look at that right quick. And if we start down here, there's a lot of information that you can reach by clicking on these things. So these are good practice. We want to look at metric system abbreviations and conversions. So we use in medicine, generally speaking, the metric system. However, when dosing liquid drugs or instructing non-medical personnel in dosing liquid drugs, we generally have them dose with teaspoons, tablespoons, and there's a reason for that. As you probably remember, you may or may not have been exposed to the metric system in your schooling. Depends on the school you went to, when you went to school, etc. What we do is look at the metric system, which is the official measurement system of the United States, but most people do not use it other than medical people or scientific people. The medical people use, again, the metric system. Our dosing is, we do all of our calculations in metric, but when we talk to patients, we don't tell them, for instance, we don't tell them that they're going to take 10 milligrams of labetalol a day. We tell them they're going to take one tablet. And the pharmacist is responsible for making certain that those tablets are all 10 milligram tablets. So we have the metric system, which has been around since the late 18th century. For the most part, we use a very limited number of prefixes. The metric system is set up with a base measurement and then a prefix that tells us what fraction of that or what multiple of that basic measurement is being used. For instance, in looking at weight units, our weight unit is a gram. A gram is approximately 1/30th of an ounce. 1,000 grams is a kilogram. Or to use scientific notation, which you may remember from school, 10 to the third or 1,000 grams. A centigram or a centimeter, we usually, when we're looking at length measurements, the basic unit of length is a meter. For the most part, a meter is approximately 3 feet 3 inches. And the centimeter is 1/100th of a meter, and that is approximately 4/10ths of an inch. A millimeter is also commonly used, as is a milligram. That's the milli is 1/1000th. So most of our drugs that we give our patients are measured in milligrams. Lengths, when we do measurements of length, which is what we do with babies, we usually measure in centimeters. In the metric system, we have to convert, and you'll see some conversions later. Micro is almost never used, although a few drugs are dosed in micrograms. Micro is 1/1,000,000th. So a microgram is 1,000th of a milligram, which is 1,000th of a gram. Okay. So a microgram is 1,000 times 1,000th, which is 1/1,000,000th of a gram. Certain drugs, digoxin, probably one you're familiar with from your patient care, is given in those doses. Others we almost never use. Nano and pico we almost never use. But kilo, we use kilograms to calculate dose. So even though we report our patient weights usually in pounds, we have to convert them. And again, you've got some conversions. So we have mass units and we have units of length and distance. As I said, the meter is the basic length. It's about 1.1 yard. And the kilometer is about 6/10, 0.621 mile. There are essentially no real easy conversions across from the metric to the English. So we use a bunch of approximation when we're thinking about these things. Units of mass or weight. As I said, we have the gram is the basic unit. The kilogram is the unit by which we may weigh our patients. We have almost nothing to do with metric tons, which is 1,000 kilograms. The gram is, if we just look at the conversion, a kilogram is 2.2 pounds, and a gram is about 1/30th of an ounce. It's actually 29 point something or other. 30 is usually good for most measurements. Well, they say 28, so that's fine. 30 is something that we can use. So volume, again, the liter is the basic unit of volume. A cubic centimeter or cc is, this is wrong. All of these equivalents are wrong. I don't know who did this. I just looked at this for the first time. Okay. Let's take a look at units of liquid volume. Okay. This is used only in physics. Don't worry about it. In medicine, we use liters. That's the basic measurement. A liter is 1.0, call it 6 quarts. So it's a little over a quart. So when thinking about what a liter is, if you make it equivalent to a quart, that's good enough for most uses. A milliliter is 1,000th of a liter. A 5 milliliters is approximately 1 teaspoon. It's really 4.8, but 5 is useful for almost all of our conversions. So we have all of those different measurements. The important thing to remember, though, is that a good way of going across these different kinds, the metric system was set up to be very much a system of equivalences. So we have the unit of length, which is we'll call it a centimeter, which is about 0.4 inches, okay? So a centimeter is about, if you look at this picture, it's about that much of a finger, about 3/4 of this joint on my finger. So if we and a cube 1 centimeter on a side is called a cubic centimeter. Well, it is a milliliter. If we look down here at volume measures, that's a milliliter. A cubic centimeter and a milliliter are the same thing. They're the same volume. Now, a milliliter of water, technically pure water at 4 degrees centigrade, but for all intents and purposes, a milliliter or cubic centimeter of water will weigh 1 gram. So if you have a milliliter of water, it'll weigh a gram, or about 1/30 of an ounce. If you have a liter of water, it will weigh a kilogram, 1,000 grams, because there are 1,000 milliliters in a liter, and each of those milliliters is a gram. So a liter itself will weigh 1,000 grams, or a kilogram. 500 milliliters will weigh 500 pounds, or 500 grams. 25 milliliters will weigh 25 grams. So if we look at this, a teaspoon is 5 milliliters. In general, if it's a liquid that is not really syrupy, it'll weigh approximately 5 grams. So there's all of those equivalents. Now, we don't care about area. We do care about temperature. We have Fahrenheit and Celsius. Officially, the metric system uses something called Kelvin degrees, which starts at what we call absolute zero, a point that's impossible to get to because there's absolutely no molecular motion at that temperature. But that's minus 273.15 degrees. Excuse me. Okay. So that's very, very cold. Okay. So that is, with Fahrenheit and centigrade degrees, we have a conversion here. We can convert back and forth. These formulas are there. You'll have a chance to look at them. The use of temperatures, all of our electronic thermometers are switchable, so you can have them read in Fahrenheit or centigrade. There are 3 important temperatures that you need to know, one of which is our so-called standard body temperature of 98.6 Fahrenheit is exactly 37 degrees centigrade. Another is that the freezing point of water, 32 degrees Fahrenheit, is 0 degrees centigrade. The boiling point of water at sea level is 212 degrees. And for Celsius or centigrade scale, it is 100 degrees. So a centigrade degree is about 9/5, almost twice the size, if you will, the span of actual heat content of a Fahrenheit degree. As I say, most of them are there, so we'll have a chance to do some calculations. The rest of this we're not going to worry about. pH is something that we need to be aware of. pH is a measure of acidity. pH of 7 is neither acidic nor basic or alkaline. Anything under 7 is acidic. Anything under about pH 3 is considered very acidic. Anything above 7 is alkaline or basic. Blood pH, healthy blood pH is about 7.35. Healthy urine pH varies from 5 to 8. So depending on the components of the urine at any one time. So that's all we're going to talk about there. So you need to study that. I'm going to be putting together a set of materials for you to have. Read some of the rest of these. I don't want this to go on too long because I really have this. Then you have questions to answer. What is a Cigna? I'm really going to have to get into some other material. This is really an interpretation of the part of an assignment, an interpretation of a prescription. 500 ml NS IV Q24H. I'm going to tell you right away what that means. Administer 500 milliliters. NS is normal saline, so you need to go back and look at the abbreviations, and I'm going to send you some material on that every 24 hours. Okay? And it's IV is intravenous, as you know already. So that's where we're going to, that's where would like you to start reviewing these things, all of these. You're going, a lot of this class is supposed to be 50-50 hybrid. So what you're going to be doing is a lot of things. I want you to know that you can email me anytime through Canvas with a question. And that's one of the reasons I would like to have you here on campus and would like you to be prepared when you come to campus to stay till at least 7 o'clock and at least be here for 3 hours. And why is that? Because I do have a class that starts at 6. It's the medical capstone. And that's mainly going to be a self-study for Candace. So what I want you doing is being here on campus so that you can be working on some issues and be able to ask questions directly. But anytime you have a question, email it. I check my email, generally speaking, a lot during the days, even when I'm not on campus, and at least a couple of times a day on the weekend. So I will be monitoring. So let's go back now. This is from, there are a lot of materials here that we don't have really the time. I'd rather be working on this on the board, but we have for doing calculations, we create some equations, and there's lots of ways of doing this, and I'm going to be posting something in the discussions either late tonight or tomorrow that will give you some more information about calculating doses. So let's back up. Now we're going to get out of here and get out of here. And we have an assessment this week. You'll have an assessment every week. Hi. We'll be in the lab. Okay. The assessment has a number of questions. What you'll be doing 10 calculations and then three other kinds of questions. So the assessment is here, and you'll do that. What I have done is ignore this 200 minutes. I have taken off the time limit, and you can do this up to 3 attempts. And you can see the correct answers. Better fix that. You can see the correct answers after the last attempt. So what you should do is, you know how to do these things. Make sure you make sure that you see the responses. Make sure that you keep a record of what you're doing so that you can maximize your score on this. I do it this way because I view these quizzes as learning experiences rather than measurement experiences, at least at the beginning of the class. So again, all of these will be set up in that way. So if you see something like you'll have you know, X amount of time to do something and 1 attempt, just shoot me a note and say, hey, I thought I was supposed to have multiple attempts, because occasionally I forget to switch it over. So go ahead and be prepared for that. Again, I'm not sure how comfortable you are doing math. I don't know if as part of your training, you're a QMAP, so that you've been exposed to some of these things. I just really think that you should be looking at each of these assignments. You should be looking at each of these assignments as a chance to review a lot of material that we won't be able to get into all of in classes. I will attempt to get some email, some documents to you to help with many of these calculations. There's a lot of material that I have and that I can pass on, and you're going to see a lot of it in the discussions. And so, having said that, this has been going for about an hour, and that's almost enough. So when you see this, hey Joel.
Hey. Need a costume tomorrow.
Ah, you're going to strip our skeleton. Sorry, I won't be here.
Otherwise, I'm going to have to recirculate through the costumes I wore this week.
Aha.
I want to see those again.
Aha.
You guys put this thing on there.
They didn't want you to take it off.
Uh-huh.
So anyway, Bobby, so what we're going to do is have you do that. And what I want you to do after you finished watching this video is to send me an email. And in the email, I'd like you to put the word Penang, Penang, so that I know you've watched the video. And then go ahead and start getting to work. Concentrate first on the looking at your discussions, but look at those videos and read those documents that are in the assignment as well. As I said, I'll send you a few other things that will help. If in the let's see, I think it's in the assessment. Let's look at the assessment. No, that's may not be there. Okay. I'll be sending you a link to something else as well to help you with those calculations. So have a good weekend. I hope you can get some rest and get things straightened out at work so that you can be in class on Monday.